my focus is a lot on helping people, give them tools that they can use the breath to help them regulate their own nervous system when they need it, how to maybe quieten their breath, how to find a bit more of their natural breathing. So I work a lot with the breath, and breath work, as you're learning here, isn't my main modality. So I would always collaborate with people on that, because I think it's also really incredible and powerful modality when it comes to somatic practices. So when I look at everything that I think we need to do in this kind of growth process and healing process, if you want to call it that, I would include breathwork in that for sure. And I think a good facilitator, no matter what modality you do, knows when to also refer out and when to get other people in whose strength is what your strength isn't. And there is a great development now that we realize that it's really the body that holds all of our stories and the trauma. And so in order to find that post-traumatic growth, we need to find that way to speak to the body, work with the body, work somatically. And breathwork is an amazing tool that sits right in that, the range of the somatic practices that can offer so much support in releasing what the body is holding, processing the stories that somebody's holding. I'm not a believer in only kind of one modality is going to fix you. You know, I mean, first of all, it can fix anyone anyway. But from my whole experience so far, it's always going to be a combination of teachers, facilitators, and practices that you will need in your process of that post-traumatic growth, of processing it, integrating it, and then moving forward and growing stronger. I think that's probably why I'm here on her training and not somebody else. You know, I think in my own system, I feel a bit too overwhelmed with some of the very strong and yoga pranayama practices even, you know, and they're not really as strong as breathwork sometimes, but I'm like, so this is quite strong for my delicate nervous system. And so having that softer, gentle approach basically means it's a lot more of an invitation of a exploration, to be curious, to try something, to feel safe trying something. That can be a very strong practice. So for me, the softer, gentler, basically what that means is that it's a safer space. And that's really like at the very core of all of my body work and somatic practices. How can I help people feel safe enough to come back to their body, come back to the sensations, come back to the emotions, and maybe find a place where some of it can be released, some of it can be processed, some of it can be discharged. For any of that to happen, we need to feel fundamentally safe. And so personally, I'm not a fan of the kind of big and loud and I'm going to say crazy, but you know, like the more out there expressive experiences that are being offered today. And there's a big, they've almost become fashionable. It's a bit of a trend. People seek that big experience. Maybe because in today's society we don't have so many outlets. We can't really express ourselves fully anymore. We don't feel safe. So we're looking for these spaces where we can go loud and big and for these really big experiences. But after there is just no integration, there's no processing, you're just sort of left there hanging, and then you're going to crash really hard after. And so that softer, gentler approach is going to create way more preparation, education, the actual process, but within feeling safe, and also integration after. So that maybe it's actually useful to move from there, to grow from there, rather than to crash from there. I think I said it earlier. In in the class. It's so important that you take care of yourself. It's kind of not even an optional or a maybe, or yeah, that would be good or it makes sense. I think it's part of the job description. It's like a must, it's a mandatory. That you are fully resourced and nourished and stable in your nervous system. I think a lot of people, and that's great, come into a supporting profession from their own stories, from their own deepest wounds, which will make them amazing facilitators because they know what it feels like to be in that situation. You need to have had that experience to know what it's like, otherwise you'll never know what it's like for that person that you might be working with. And so I think a lot of people get sort of sent out there after they finish whatever training they've done, not prepared for the reality of what it means to hold space at all, not having the tools to really regulate their own nervous system. So start with yourself and continue doing that work, getting to know your own nervous system as best as you can before supporting other people's nervous system.